Hey students, so now that you guys have watched your lecture on note-taking part one, we're going to move into note-taking part two, which will go over specific types of note-taking methods. And so you will then take this lecture and you'll go ahead and complete the assignment for this week where you'll be uploading your own set of notes using one of these methods. Okay, so you guys can see some examples in the textbook, and I highly recommend that you go back and you look at the explanation of these different types of methods and you take a look at the examples provided as well. Okay, so the first type, we're first going to talk about choosing a note-taking style. And so as I discussed in the previous lecture, it really depends on you, your personal style, and your instructor's approach. I think we had mentioned previously that using the chart method, even if personally that's one of your favorites, it may not work for an instructor who talks really fast. You also need it to fit the needs of the class that you're in. So take a look at your syllabus and look at the tests that you're going to have, the quizzes. What is going to work for you to help you study for that test to meet the needs of that class. Make sure that you're also listening actively. So go back and review those listening skills that we had practiced in the previous module. Make sure you're also observing material in class and really thinking about the information that is presented. So let's first talk about the chart method. I had mentioned at the end of the last lecture, this one may be kind of new to you. And so the chart method is one that uses a table, as the name suggests, to take notes. And you are summarizing information. You will use separate columns for main points, details, questions, etc. So each of those will kind of be headings for columns. The chart method is used to classify information, and it helps to identify different categories and or topics. You'll need to set this one up before class starts by previewing the text, getting everything ready to go before you watch or go to class for a lecture. Okay, so here is an example of the chart method. Okay, so looks like this would be taken maybe in a nursing class or some kind of health science, medical field type class. And so everything would have to be kind of set up in advance with these categories, right? So the medicine, the uses for the medicine, the side effects of the medicine, and the dosage. And so you would need to know all of those things were in the text before you come to class, knowing that your instructor is then going to lecture on it. You don't want to try to, create a table in the middle of the lecture and then realizing that your organization is all off. Okay, but as we said, this one is really organized and it summarizes information really, really well. It can be a great study guide tool for you. So when to use the chart method. If you know that the test that you're going to take will focus on facts and relationships, or if your course content is heavier and presented to you quickly. Okay, so if you have a lot of information that you're being given at once, this is a good one. If you want to spend less time editing and reviewing your notes before taking a test, this is a great method to use. Or if you want an overview of your entire course, or maybe an entire chapter in one spot, the chart method is a great, is a great method to use. Next is the outline method. I'll preface this by saying most of you have probably used the outline method before. You may or may not have been required to use the outline method in previous classes. And so when you guys go to do your assignment this week, please don't use a note-taking method that you are super familiar with. So if you use the outline method a lot, don't use it for the assignment this week. So in the outline method, the most important information or ideas is along the left margin, and you number it with Roman numerals. Okay. And so those are your big ideas. Supporting ideas are then indented using capital letters, and then any other details that you need to include under the supporting ideas will be further indented. And those are usually just regular numbers. Okay, so here's an example of the three stages of note taking from our previous lecture in the outline method. So we talked about, those three big stages. Those are our three main ideas: receive, record, and review. And this one shows you lowercase for the indenting. So don't get caught up so much in the whether you're using capital or lowercase letters or numbers or whatever. You could even use bullet points if you want, and that's totally okay. But you should have a clear kind of hierarchy between, main idea and supporting idea by using the indenting. Okay, so when to use the outline method, if the material presented by the instructor is well organized. So again, you need to know your instructor's style. If they present everything kind of in order of the textbook, then this is a really great method to use. It's also great for use on a computer. So like we've said, handwriting is the most effective. If you're going to go back and review your notes, you may review it by typing and using the outlining method in that way. Okay, next is Cornell notes. Most students hate Cornell notes, but they are really beneficial. You probably hate them because you were forced to do it when you were in middle school or high school. Cornell notes is the 2-column approach. So a third of the page is the recall or the cue column. And so after class, you review your notes and write key ideas or concepts or cues in this column. And your cues can be questions, right? Think of it like a game of Jeopardy, where you have the answer and then you have to write a question for it. And so that can be a really great way of using Cornell notes so that you can use it as a study guide later. The other 2/3 of the page is where you actually take the notes using a version of the outline method during your class or during the lecture. Most Cornell notes, I think standard requires you to put a summary at the bottom of the page. I had mentioned in your instructor appointments that, maybe do a 25 to 30 word summary of the material to help you with your information processing and your self-testing. So don't think of the summary as a full-on essay or even a full-on paragraph. It can be just really a sentence or two. Okay, here is an example again of the 3 stages of note-taking. So the main ideas are going on the 1/3 left-hand side. You would be taking notes on the right-hand side, and then you have your summary at the very bottom. Again, you would want to set this up before class, and you would need to preview your text beforehand, just to make sure that you kind of knew what categories or what main ideas were going to be presented to you during the class. Okay, so when to use Cornell notes: when you want to call out a key concept or prioritize ideas. It's a way of organizing your review work, and it's often recommended in college, which is typically why you are taught it in high school, because they want to prepare you for your college classes. But typically, college instructors don't require you to take notes in a certain way. Some of them might. I don't as a college instructor, and I never had any college instructors who did. But for a very long time, this was sort of expected of college students. Okay, next is the concept map method. We called it the mapping method in the part 1 lecture. And so this is like the mind map idea with all the bubbles. So you will place your central idea in the middle of the page with a circle around it, and you'll add lines and new circles on the page for new ideas. And you can use arrows and lines to connect. So here is an example. The 3 stages of note taking, right? We have our 3 main ideas, receive, record, and review. And off of those bubbles, we have supporting details. Okay. Another type of mapping method is tree mapping. And this one might be for those of you who are a little bit more left-brained and you don't like the chaos of the concept map. And so this is a little bit more organized way of doing it, where it almost looks a little bit more like the outline method, but it's really just bullet points, and then you can have kind of your 3 main ideas across the top of the page. Okay, so when to use the concept map method is to show relationships among ideas, and if your instructor moves from one idea to another. So maybe your instructor isn't as organized in how they present their information. This could be a really good method for you to use. Okay, so those are the different types of note-taking methods. So for your assignment this week, you guys are going to be uploading some notes where you have taken notes for a different class, and you're going to use one of these methods. And I really encourage you to use something that you have never used before or you're not as comfortable with, so that you can kind of get comfortable with all methods, because as you continue your academic career, you're going to, run into a lot of different types of instructors, and you want to have kind of all of these in your toolkit to be able to use for different instructor styles. Okay, so go ahead and work on those this week, and I look forward to seeing how your notes turned out.